I'm Joel Goldstein, and this is my son Bart. I've written a book about our family's experience with Bart's traumatic brain injury. The book is coming out shortly. It's called No Stone Unturned by Potomac Books. I wrote the book initially just to get a lot of things off my chest, to get it out of my system. And it was a different kind of book. It was written really for family and friends. My wife, my bride of 38 years, told me to write a different book, which is the one I've now written and we're publishing, something that would share with the wider population what we went through. Frankly, it's almost impossible to understand what traumatic brain injury is and what it involves, what it means, especially a severe injury, to the family member and to the rest of us. Frankly, I'd never heard of traumatic brain injury before Bart was injured. So we ultimately wrote the book and then got it published so that we could help raise awareness of what is largely an invisible epidemic. There's millions and millions of young people, and older people as well, who are disabled by traumatic brain injury. And we're going to try and do our part to help create a grassroots movement around TBI.
The accident that happened was on December 29th, 2001, and that's all I really know. After that occurred, I woke up in the hospital just pretty much not fully paralyzed, but semi-paralyzed, and just thinking, what's next? Things did change drastically for me in many ways. Before my accident, I was a little, I wasn't that concerned with planning. Since my accident, planning is basically my life and stuff like that. I have a daily planner, which I'm sure to write down what time I woke up at, what I did during the day, and whatever might happen during those hours of being awake. I think I've actually learned better strategies and routines just to continue life furthermore onto just, I don't know, on my dream of recovery.
The initial reaction to an accident of this kind is an extreme adrenaline rush. Nothing in our life had prepared us for anything like it. And for, at least for the month or so that Bart was in coma, and I think even beyond that when he transferred to the rehab hospital, Helen Hayes Hospital, for maybe 5 or 6 weeks we were on a complete adrenaline high. We didn't need sleep, we didn't need food, and you were just in the moment. Once that passed, and it does pass, and you have a crash like no other crash. My old man used to tell me that in the Army he could sleep standing up, and I always thought that was hyperbole. But you can. I've slept standing up. I was so tired after that period when we kind of came down to the realization that this was a very, very long haul. And in terms of getting through it and coping, it's the same things that get people through crises in life. It's faith, hope, and love. It's humor. Everyone in the family has an outrageous sense of humor, especially Bart. And we cultivated and we clung to that. Even at the worst times, we were clowning around and, you know, high humor and low humor. We also, one of the things that it runs in our family and it's natural for us, we really tried to think outside the box. When it's a very severe traumatic brain injury, which it was in Bart's case, even if he survived, which he did, thank God, the prognosis is not good. It's the kind of prognosis that ends up in a nursing home. So we began to think outside the box, to research alternative and unconventional therapies that could take us further. We had some resources. We were lucky. We know a brilliant doctor up in Saugerties. Originally, he was in New Paltz, Michael Compain, and he suggested to us that we explore hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which we did. And Bart took 3 courses of therapy, 120 dives.
Hyperbaric basically involved sitting in a chamber and just like wearing this, I don't know, what did you call it, like a helmet? And you probably like watch a movie, and I usually just fell asleep because usually I'd be there with a bunch of like, Rugrats and whatnot that would watch things I had no interest in.
And it made a big difference, and we began to find out about other things. Bart mentioned his vision issues. He was involved, this is years after the injury, he was involved in an experimental program at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, which was able to demonstrate that the brain is plastic enough, there's enough neural plasticity, as they call it, to teach new portions of the brain to see.
I also did this eye therapy with Dr. Randolph Marshall, where I had to stare at a dot on a laptop and click every time it changed colors. This helped me out in many different ways. I felt like it made my concentration a little more hardcore.
They were able to coax the vision back about another 10%, which makes a tremendous difference. He used to blindside himself. He'd walk into things, couldn't read across a whole page. All of that was remedied with the vision restoration therapy. We really tried and did quite a great number of unconventional therapies. I mean, we had good conventional medicine, the best, but that, as I say, that's limited, only takes you so far. We weren't satisfied at all with the outcomes. So we tried a number of other things, craniosacral therapy. Our dear friend, the book is partly dedicated to him, Duffy Violante in Clintondale. He treated Bart for years with craniosacral therapy. I should say at no cost to us. So we took as our standard, or as our benchmark, do no harm. We found therapies that did no harm. Some of them didn't work. They were harmless and useless, as I like to say. But others were very effective. The name of the book is No Stone Unturned, which I owe to my bride. She came up with the name. Although it was in the book, there was the phrase. We said that this quest, this mission to help Bart recover fully, really recover his life, that we would leave no stone unturned in that effort. And sure, I mean, to this day, it's 10 years, it's a little more than 10 years. I spend 2 nights a week on the internet reading about news relating to TBI. I'm on all kinds of newsletter lists and so on, because we are, the fight is not over. TBI is a lifelong condition, and you can still make progress. One of the things we learned, and we were advised, we were lucky. We had a great neurosurgeon named David Harder at Westchester Medical, and he told us months after the accident, he said, listen, conventional medicine says you've got a year maybe to make good progress, possibly 2, but it's wrong. It goes on, good progress can go on forever, especially for 6 or 7 years. And that gave us the time frame that we needed. Because frankly, if you looked at Bart's condition a year after the accident, it was still a pretty grim condition. And we needed to know that we could continue, and he could continue, to make good progress pretty much indefinitely. He's still making great progress, and we're still looking very eagerly at some new therapies.
I would actually like to accomplish with this book, just besides notoriety, just getting the mass media to understand that there is traumatic brain injury everywhere. I really hope that my experience will help other people. If my story can help other people to understand different types of traumatic brain injury, I do believe that people coming back from the past war in Iraq, they'll have TBIs, and they have to try and find new ways of understanding how to relate with someone with a traumatic brain injury and how a person with a traumatic brain injury can relate to the world.
According to Remind.org, which is the Woodruff Family Foundation's organization that's in support of returning veterans, and it's a very fine organization. And possibly the most reliable source of information about returning vets. There may be upwards of 320,000 veterans with TBI. I don't think they're all severe TBI, but it's on a range of mild and moderate and severe. Well, moderate and severe means life-changing effects. And I'm guessing that many of these veterans and their families are overwhelmed with the condition, which is natural enough. They may not have the resources that we had, not just financially, but also in terms of knowledge base. I'm not sure what exactly the VA is doing for them, although chances are the VA is sticking within the strict bounds of conventional medicine. Although I should say this, because I do read about it all the time, the VA is experimenting now with hyperbaric oxygen therapy at their the big Texas VA facility, and they're giving hyperbaric to over 1,000 veterans with TBI. So that's a very positive thing. When we did HBOT with Bart 9 years ago, it was largely considered a waste of time and money. But probably just under the sheer pressure of numbers, right? I mean, what's the VA going to do with hundreds of thousands of TBIers? They've got to cut to the chase. They've got to find some relatively inexpensive and easy to deploy therapies that can bring people back and get them out of the nursing homes and so on. What happened to Bart is going to happen to about 200,000 people this year. Actually, about 1.7 million will suffer a TBI, but many of them will be mild TBIs, basically concussions. About 200,000 people will suffer a severe or disabling TBI. And I'd like them to know, and their families to know, that as tough as it is, and as long and hard a fight as it is, you really can recover from this condition. Not always. 50,000 people a year die from TBI. But if you're lucky enough to survive and you're willing to explore alternative therapies and work over a long time frame, you can make remarkable progress. And the progress really never ends. So if people take that from the book and from the experience, that would be marvelous.